Hello, listeners, and welcome to Funeral Services in the Web. I'm Tyler Fraser, your host, where we seek out internet-related topics and explain them to funeral professionals. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Courtney Gould Miller. Welcome to the show, Courtney.
Thank you.
So, you are my favorite new funeral radio host. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about your new show?
Absolutely. So the new show that I'm working on is the Next 10 podcast on funeral radio. We're really excited about it. It is me hosting it, but it's also an effort by MKJ Marketing, my company. And we're really focused on what is the next 10 years of funeral service. Not necessarily what's happening right now. We do look at some current trends, but more where is that taking us? And I'm really inviting the industry to dream a little bit. You know, what could be possible? Not what we've necessarily done before, but what is really best for consumers going forward.
Okay. And so you are a recovering lawyer, is that correct?
That is right. I actually refer to myself that way. So, yeah.
And you used to live in beautiful Los Angeles, California, is that right? And you're now in Nashville?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. And
We're
MKJ.
in our office today. So this is our Nashville office that we started a little over a year ago.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's say MKJ has a new funeral home that they'd like to work with, and the funeral home wants to get more leads from the internet. What's kind of the process? What's your audit of their digital services or digital marketing?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. We really do start with an audit, and it's free because MKJ Marketing, while we do really everything in the funeral industry for marketing, we want it to be right for the client. So no situation is the same. Markets are different, your brand is different, your experience, your staff, your goals are different, and so that's all really taken into account in our audit. That's part of why all of our quotes for any digital are really custom, because we don't want to do overkill in a small market or not enough in a big one, you know, or depending on, we have clients with multiple locations and some that are still run by, you know, 2 people. And that's all fine. We love all of those clients. We just want to address what the need is. And so our audits really start with looking at the current market, where are they ranking online, diagnosing some of the reasons they may be ranking that way. We look at all of their social profiles, determine what's been working, what's not, because, you know, how engagement is in different platforms is really... it differs across all of our clients, and so we look at that. But a lot of our process is, what are your goals? Are you trying to sell through social media? Are you trying to do public relations through social media? Very different. Same with search. Are you trying to dominate the page versus just having your name shown? You know, those kinds of things are different.
I always say there's a big difference between a large funeral home in Texas with 10, 20, 30 employees and mom and pop in Philadelphia.
Yes.
And it was striking to me. I recently moved out to Virginia from beautiful California, mm-hmm. and visited all the funeral homes in the Philadelphia area. And the difference in funeral home, the type of funeral home up in this area is quite different than other parts of the country. You know, like, many of them are closed and it's by appointment only,
right.
And a much different approach. So I could see the importance of having a tailor-made approach to digital marketing. Mm-hmm. And so let's start with SEO. Like, what are some things that jump out at you when it comes to ranking in a specific market, let's say a highly competitive market?
Okay. So it really, this is a lawyer answer, but it depends in a lot of situations. I think in terms of ranking in a market, you want to look at what's the age of the site. So a lot of times people are coming to us with a full service business, but a lot of times they're coming to us with a brand new business. So as my first episode on Next 10 covered, e-cremation. We're doing a lot of new e-commerce sites for cremation brands. And that's a brand new site. So it's not going to rank well even with base SEO that we include in a site. It's often going to take extra work on the SEO side. And so ranking well has a lot to do with how the site is built. And a lot of sites that we see by other providers are not built SEO optimized. And so that's an important thing that we look at. What are we going to have to do on the site itself? But a big part of SEO that people really often do not understand are online citations. So we are constantly looking at what are the citations and listings online that are affecting a brand. And with businesses that have been around for a very long time, it's so common that they have inconsistent citations, they're lacking citations, they've acquired businesses and there are some citations under that old name and some citations with half the name and all kinds of things. You know, they've closed a location, that location still exists online. I mean, we've seen it all. We've also seen, you know, a recent example, a competitor claim a citation and change the phone number to theirs. So it's a really important area that while a lot of funeral homeowners would prefer not to deal with it, and you know sometimes they'll get frustrated with the situation, the reality is it's important and it's part of our digital world. And so that's a big part of what we focus on with SEO that's really different than anybody else. A lot of times I hear, oh, I'm doing search and I'm ranking number 1, you know, according to my search provider. Well, what they really mean is I bought some pay-per-click ads. And that's actually not search engine optimization. You know, what we focus on, we do some pay-per-click where it's warranted, particularly with a new business. But most of the time, we're looking at organic search because all of the research and data shows, you know, cross industry, but certainly with funeral industry, the consumer is jumping down to that organic hit. Often they're passing over the pay-per-click ads. And so pay-per-click has its place when you're not ranking on the page, but organic is really the focus. And so that's what we focus on in terms of where are they ranking and how do we improve it.
Can you just clarify what a citation is?
I will try, but it is kind of confusing often to people who are outside of the search optimization world. It's really an online listing, like a Google Plus, you know, or Google My Business. Facebook is a citation, very popular one, Yelp. But there are so many that are beyond what, you know, a business owner would realize. So there are some like Hot Frog or Local SEO, which you probably never heard of, but most of our funeral homeowners either have a listing on there or need a listing on there. And so each month with our search marketing customers, we go through and claim listings like that and really focus on getting their listings correct.
I'd like to just take a moment. The inline process of planning a cremation is really becoming popular, and the ability to make choices about cremation urns and jewelry and services as through one process is really a smooth way to present your services. And one of the things we do here at UPD Urns is we offer the UPD Urn Store. And this allows your funeral home to show our 1,600 cremation urns and jewelry pieces to your families at retail prices so they can check out with a credit card at home. And you actually have a couple clients that use that, is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to move on to social. Facebook, Twitter, which may be slowly on the way out. Mm-hmm. What are some ways that you are driving new leads for your clients via social?
Mm-hmm. So we were really one of the first to focus on Facebook advertising for our clients as the main reason for the platform. We did do Twitter. We do, in some cases, still have some Twitter accounts, but we really recommended our clients away from that because we saw the demographics changing. It's skewing younger, it's skewing male. It just wasn't really the right place for our clients. Facebook allows us with the opportunity for advertising to target in so many different ways. The community, really, 55 and up is the fastest growing population on Facebook, so that's where we want to be. I've seen some funeral homes looking at Instagram and some providers recommending that. I have this really great chart that shows no baby boomers on Instagram, really, at least as a measurable, in terms of research. They're not even a population. So until we see a demographic in a place that is warranting the effort that it takes to populate content on a regular basis, I don't recommend it. And so Facebook is the one that we focus on most. We do some Pinterest, we do some Twitter, as I said, but it's really, we follow where the consumers are. And so we look at a lot of different things in generating leads, but the majority of what we focus on is custom content. So unlike some, funeral homes that would love to be able to just put content on that's generic, etc., and make it easy, it really doesn't move the needle. Consumers can feel it. And so what we focus on is as much custom content as our funeral home owners can provide us. And so we work with them on that to develop it. We've come up with some amazing series for clients, some focused on therapy dogs, some focused on with cemeteries. We talk about the history that's there and individual people that are buried there. So there's so much opportunity to really show what the funeral home is doing, or the cemetery, or the cremation provider, and what are their differences. It's the same process that we have taken with clients for over 30 years in terms of their marketing. We start with what is the business doing and what are their goals, and then we achieve it through the content.
Baby boomers, if you're not on Instagram, I have to highly recommend it. I'm the type of person to look at a magazine and look at a lot of the pictures. And Instagram is basically a magazine really without a lot of ads. Mm-hmm. So I follow a lot of my favorite companies, not so much friends or family, but things that I value or align myself with, and it's like a magazine for me.
Absolutely.
So
don't get me wrong, I love Instagram. Yeah. But it's I say I'm agnostic as to media. We look at where the consumer is. We still make a lot of newspaper ads for clients who want them, but is that where everybody is now? No. It's very clear that, the latest Pew Research study showed 62% get their online news from Facebook. When I tell clients that, they say, oh my gosh, that's horrible, for our society, that no one's reading the newspaper. Maybe, maybe not, but that's where they are, so that's where we need to reach them.
I was listening to an audiobook on my drive out here from Manassas, Virginia, and it's called Growth Hacker Marketing. And one of the lines he had was, people are no longer using direct mail or going door to door. And I just sent an email to my direct mail company, and I'm on a trip going door to door, so that was kind of funny.
Direct mail, I was reading an article the other day that said it's really coming back with millennials, and I think there are cycles to things because millennials want mail now. It's kind of an oddity for them, but the way that we approach it at MKJ, and my parents, Glenn and Marilyn, obviously founded the company over 30 years ago. We have always looked at each individual situation. There are some markets that newspaper is the best. Still the case, depending on the circulation and things like that. Direct mail, same thing. Facebook, there are some markets SEO is not going to be the right solution. If you're in a tiny town and you're already ranking, there's nothing else to do. So we have to look at each situation and what the goals and budget are.
What would you say is some of the platforms that are jumping out at you in the next 5 years, 10 years?
10 years, yes.
What's the future of digital marketing?
I think Instagram could definitely be a player in the future. They just keep getting stronger. Obviously, their acquisition by Facebook is a good sign for them in terms of becoming a platform for, eventually Gen X and millennials will age, right? And they'll come into our demographic. I think that's certainly a platform that will be. I think we don't really know yet. 10 years ago, Facebook wasn't a player. So we look at those kinds of things in terms of not so much which platform, but what kind of content resonates. What are people wanting to see? Inbound marketing is obviously a major trend in terms of trying to generate as many leads without direct door to door or going and calling people, but instead letting the leads come into you. And so I think there's a lot of different things that are going to be happening around that in our industry. I think email is going to become more important, and we're going to be exploring some of that on the Next 10 podcast. But I think that in terms of the platform, I don't think we have an idea yet what's going to be around. I don't think it's going to be Snapchat, though. I don't know if you have a thought on that, but I don't think Snapchat is ever going to really stick around the way that Facebook and Instagram will.
Well, I think that that technology is changing so fast, and Mark Cuban recently invested in a UK hologram advertising company that projects holograms in the foyer at a mall. Things are moving so quickly. The video, the moving imagery, or just images on a mobile device, and what are mobile devices going to look like in 5 years? And we're getting the less of a bevel with the Samsung 8, and so that's, as things move forward, it's definitely going to be interesting.
I think, as you said, though, video will always be important, or, at least in the next 10 years. I do think video will continue to be more and more important because it's the format that everybody likes to consume. I mean, it's much easier to watch a video than read an article, and that's what a lot of people like to do.
Yeah, and I know we're both a fan of Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yes.
And in his recent book, he talked about just the power of YouTube and how much of a presence it is in just the video space. And for me, it really kind of replaced television. I mean, with all the other platforms out there, but just YouTube and being able to provide your own videos and pretty much be on television is a big deal. So what are some topics that you'll be covering in Next 10 as you start to produce more podcasts?
So we're really looking broadly. I mean, we are going to do some in marketing, but it's also how do we reach consumers? How do we become relevant to them? Because I think that's marketing at its truest form, not necessarily, what media always, but how do we reach our consumers in a way and with what content that they're really interested in? So one of my next guests is actually the founder and CEO of Lifelinks, which is a company that helps in end-of-life planning. So it's outside the funeral industry, but what are the lessons that they're learning in terms of how they interact with their customers, who are often our customers? And so taking some ideas from that, and one of the things that I really want to explore through the podcast is what are consumers wanting from funeral homes and cremation providers? Is it just about the deceased? Or is it really about the experience around how we honor life? And of course, that's part of every funeral service, but it's more, how can we be useful to them before a death happens? That's been something that we've worked with clients in for a long time in terms of partnering with hospice or providing, the pre-planning lunch and learn kinds of things. But I want to really think about that more broadly because as we know, the end of life period is extending in a lot of cases. It's not sudden deaths, and it's not a couple weeks or a couple months, and sometimes it's years. And so the grieving process happens earlier. The relevance of the funeral home, I think, happens earlier, or it should happen earlier. So that's some of what we're going to be exploring.
Great. Well, I can't wait to listen to more of your shows.
Thank you.
Courtney, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Tyler.
Listeners, thanks so much for listening to Funeral Services in the Web. I'm your host, Tyler Fraser. Until next time.